shocking crime. A man is accused of stealing nearly $500,000 of electricity from Duke Energy. What the agency says this could mean for your personal information.
It'll be a chilly start to the state fair. How low temperatures will drop for opening day and our next chance for rain.
With the remaining hostages now released in Gaza, we speak one-on-one with Chapel Hill native Keith Siegel about his time as a Hamas prisoner. Hear the first-hand account of life in captivity. We start, though, with a pair of big stories to tell you about right here at 7 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Haggerty. Right now, we have a car crash that has traffic backed up a long while on I-40 in Wake County. This is right near Gorman Street. And in Fuquay-Varina, we got a house on fire on Banks Road. Carly Haynes is in the live center. She's been staying on top of both of these stories for us tonight. Walk us through what's happening, Carly.
Dan, I want to get right to that crash that happened on I-40 eastbound. This is a Sky 5 live over that crash right now. Two cars appear to have collided into one another. Officials have just reopened one of those lanes. Two are still blocked off. The crash happened right on I-40 eastbound at exit 289, but we know traffic is backed up for miles. You can see just how long those lines of cars are. I've been seeing these backups up to right around Airport Boulevard. So I recommend exiting around 284 if you are on I-40 eastbound right now. Also want to tell you about that massive house fire in Fuquay-Varina. This was on Banks Road. Now, fire department in Fuquay-Varina says that nobody was inside at the time, therefore there were no injuries here. But when we searched through property records, we saw that the owner of the home is somebody who was arrested in March for having pipe bombs and drugs in his home. It's unclear if there is a connection to this fire and the person who's listed as the homeowner here.
Carly, thank you. Boy, oh boy, that traffic backup. We're going to keep an eye on all of that for you tonight. We are also following a major fraud case in Wake County. Police say a man stole nearly $500,000 worth of electricity from Duke Energy. Stole electricity. How exactly is that possible? Well, investigators say he stole people's identities and credit card information and supplied power to several different addresses. That suspect was in court today. WRAL's Eric Miller was there too.
Inside a Wake County courtroom Wednesday, a first appearance for a years-long fraud.
Tell me your name, sir.
According to warrants, this man, 36-year-old Raphael Williams, created fake accounts using other people's names, both living and dead. The warrants say he then used those identities to steal power from Duke for others without paying for those services, resulting in dozens of charges, including 19 counts of identity theft alone.
It was a lot of work for one person to create that many different identities.
Eileen Taylor, a fraud expert and professor of accounting at NC State, said Williams' case is unusual.
No, it's a little bit unusual. Most people who commit fraud either steal money or steal things that can be converted to money.
We've asked both Duke Energy and the Wake County Sheriff's Office what all that power was for. So far, they've declined to say, citing the ongoing investigation.
They're not alleging that you own a credit card.
In court, Williams asked the judge to lower his $2 million bond, claiming he's currently in college.
I'm missing days of being here, so I'm just trying to do whatever I can to get back to that because I'm supposed to get my degree.
The judge declined, saying Williams' charges are too severe.
You have massive exposure. I mean, you're looking at spending the rest of your life in prison.
What about your Duke Energy account? We reached out to the company today. Duke told us they believe they've identified all of the accounts that were involved here. It was a relatively small number, and they're working on notifying everybody involved. Still, they say if you suspect fraud, if you've seen any signs, to please reach out to them. Williams will be back here in court in Wake County on November 5th. In Raleigh, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
All right, Eric, thank you. So tonight, hundreds flocked to the DPAC to hear former Vice President Kamala Harris speak in person for the first time since losing the election. She's talking about her new book, which does, of course, cover that campaign. WRAL's Heidi Kirk is live in Durham tonight, and this event, Heidi, is already underway.
Well, Dan, we got here actually around 5 o'clock tonight, and there's been a pretty steady stream of people headed in the doors here at the DPAC since then. In fact, I'm going to walk you this way and show you what we're seeing here right now. You know, that event started just moments ago, but still people showing up here, walking through those doors tonight. And we've talked to people actually from across our state who drove here to Durham to attend tonight's event and see Kamala Harris. Now, you can see some of those people lined up here. That was within the last couple hours. Lots of crowds here. Again, hundreds of people. Now, this comes at a really interesting time. It's the 15th day of the government shutdown, and just days before thousands are set to rally for a No Kings protest against the Trump administration. Several of those planned across our state. Now, some of the people we spoke with tonight say they came here as a way to show their support for the movement as a whole.
It's a reason for all of us to continue to get up every day and just feel like we can do some small thing to make a difference. For us, it's coming here to get re-energized, to get inspiration, and we're going to take that back to Winston-Salem and be just as excited and happy, and hopefully everybody around us, and that'll grow. So I think for us, that's the biggest protest against a king.
Now, we also reached out to the state's GOP tonight to get their take on these upcoming protests. In a statement, a spokesperson says, quote, Democrats are captive to their radical left-wing base, which doesn't represent the majority of Americans who want a strong, prosperous America. President Trump and Republicans are delivering. Now, we're going to be standing by throughout the duration of this event. So far, there haven't been any protesters here. We are also going to monitor those protests over the weekend. We'll have the latest for you. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live in Durham.
Thank you, Heidi. It has been a busy day, if you couldn't tell, so let's get you caught up on everything. These are the 5 things you should know right now. Today, we did learn more about the crash that killed these 3 high school students in Fayetteville. Police say speed was a factor. The crash happening Thursday night on Rose Hill Road. The 3 E.E. Smith high school football players all died. The driver, 21-year-old Diamond Monroe, remains in critical condition. A 13 and 15-year-old faced charges in a stabbing that seriously injured a third teenager, another 15-year-old. Sky 5 over the scene on Dilmar Court in Raleigh yesterday. Today, police said that the victim is still being treated for what they call life-threatening injuries. Police in Raleigh are investigating reports of car break-ins right near the North Carolina Fairgrounds, near the state fairgrounds. This happened during the Chris Brown concert at Carter Finley Stadium. Police didn't share any exact locations or timing or the details of the break-ins, but we know cars were broken into. Transgender people on the state health plan in North Carolina will lose coverage for some treatments. A years-long court battle ended today, ruling the state health plan does not have to pay for sex change surgery. The state appealed an earlier decision on this and lost. Federal courts ruled last year that the state health plan should cover treatments related to being transgender, but this summer the Supreme Court took the opposite stance. Redistricting conversations will start up again at the state capitol next week. Today, House Speaker Destin Hall formed the committee that will handle these discussions. Republican state lawmakers will try to redraw congressional voting maps before next year's midterm election to increase the number of Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is part of a much larger nationwide effort. As the ceasefire takes hold in Gaza, WRAL is speaking with the North Carolina native who was released from Hamas custody earlier this year. Keith Siegel spent over a year as a hostage. After the break, Ashley Rowe is joining us and asking him what he endured, what he witnessed, and what's next. Mike?
Dan, we have a cold front coming by tonight, bringing colder air. I'll show you those tumbling temperatures in the forecast coming up. With our passing cold front tonight, cooler air arrives tomorrow morning. Now, this morning we had 53 at RDU. It was 57 in Fayetteville. Tomorrow we expect about 50 in Raleigh, 52 in Fayetteville. Colder spots, Roxborough 45, Durham is at 48, Rocky Mount is 48 as well. And tomorrow is the opening day at the North Carolina State Fair. The gates open at noon, and if you're heading out at that time, full sunshine, 65. You'll need a jacket, and if you're going to stay through the evening, temperatures will dip into the 50s, so a jacket will certainly come in handy. If you're heading this weekend, we'll have a temperature turnaround. I'll show you that coming up. 70 right now out of the airport, the dew point 51, a beautiful ending of the day. 70 in Morrisville, 67 in Garner, 65 already in Holly Springs, a little chilly there. In the 60s in Durham, 70 over this version of Durham, 66 at Southern Pines, 64 at Rocky Mount, 63 in Goldsboro. Heading out for a dog walk, you're definitely going to need your jackets. This evening we'll have clear sky, and of course there's no rain in our forecast. Hour by hour, here's how temperatures drop. By midnight we're at 59, and again here in the Triangle we're down to about 50. 50. The morning commute will be filled with sunshine. It'll be a little chilly. Make sure you have your sunglasses and keep a jacket handy throughout the day tomorrow. Now we have our dry front coming on through, not depicted on this map. We've got our second system that's out here in the Rockies that'll arrive Sunday night. Yesterday, the model suggested we could see a fair amount of rain Sunday night. Now the models are backing off, and this is what they're showing. This is the European model for about 8 o'clock in the evening. Really backed off, just showing some showers. So I dropped the rain chance from 50%, which we showed yesterday, to 40, but really it looks more like a 30% chance. By Friday, we'll have high resolution model data giving us a better idea of what we could see Sunday night. So we'll keep it pretty much at 40% until we see new data. The front will pass on by. Sunday will be warm ahead of the front, maybe 80 degrees. Once the front passes, we're back into the 60s and 70s by Monday. So our forecast north to south tonight: 45 at Clarksville and Roxborough, 46 at South Hill, 46 at Lewisburg, 48 at Siler City, 49 at Smithfield, 50 at Irwin, 50 at Southern Pines. So a little chilly when you step out. Later in the afternoon, it's breezy, it's cooler. We expect our, you know what? I just noticed I have 3 O's for cooler. I guess that means it's like really, really cool. I just noticed that. I've been showing it all day. 70 at Goldsboro, 73 at Southern Pines, 73 in Fayetteville. 7-day forecast. We got the State Fair going on this weekend and next week. There is no rain in our forecast, at least during the daytime hours. Only at 20% on Sunday, 20% on Wednesday. We warm up this weekend, cool down on Monday, and then we warm back up near 80 on Wednesday.
Today, for the first time, we are speaking with one of the hostages released from Hamas custody. Keith Siegel is from Chapel Hill. He spent over a year in captivity and was released earlier this year. He was one of 30 hostages released as part of a ceasefire agreement back in February. These are the faces of a few of the other hostages released at that time. This week, 20 more living hostages were released. These were the final living hostages in Hamas custody. Their freedom comes as part of a peace deal brokered by the U.S. Keith Siegel has been free for about 8 months. He's released a video statement, visited the White House, and sat down for an interview with NBC. Today, he sat down for an interview with WRAL. We talked about his time in captivity, what he saw, what he heard. We talked about his release, his freedom, and where he goes from here. We're going to post a longer video of our conversation on the WRAL YouTube page, but there's a big chunk of it here for you now. Keith, it's really good to chat with you.
Thank you.
You were in captivity for 484 days, and then you were released, and it took no time at all for you to completely pivot to campaigning to get these hostages released. So a lot of, the work that you have put in has paid off. Can you walk me back to when you were released and give us a sense of what it feels like, what these hostages have just gone through this week? You've been there. What does that feel like?
Yes, so as you said, I was released after 484 days in captivity. I can only tell you what my experience was, but I was feeling incredibly grateful and thankful, and this miraculous being back with my family, something that I wasn't sure would ever happen.
Can you give me a sense of those initial days of your release when you were trying to acclimate? Can you help paint a picture of what that was like, your body physically trying to acclimate, not just your mind?
And the thoughts that were in my mind before I met my wife and my son was just to make sure as much as I can that they see that I'm okay. Again, both physically and mentally. So, and also making sure, trying to, 484 days, I never, not one day or 1 minute of that time, I felt clean. And I went for weeks without having an opportunity to, I call it, put water on my body, because it's not a shower. I mean, even when I had opportunities to put water on my body to quote unquote clean my body, I never felt clean, because I didn't, the conditions there were not, it wasn't possible to properly clean my body. So actually at this army base, before I met my wife and my son, I literally scrubbed my body 3 times with this it's not a scouring pad, but it's a plastic thing that you scrub your body with. I'm not sure what it's called in English, but I did that 3 times. And when I was in there, the doctor came into the room, I think 3 times, just to ask if I was okay. And knowing that my wife and my son were waiting for me, and I was waiting I was just wanting to see them as soon as possible, and knowing that they wanted to see me as soon as possible. But I wanted to make sure my body was clean before that meeting.
I understand that the hospital where the released hostages are taken to have to provide special sheets because the skin is so sensitive after all of that time spent in the tunnels. Did you have that same experience?
I was moved around 33 times throughout my time in captivity, relocated. And I spent, the conditions that I experienced varied. I was in tunnels. I was in a school with Palestinian civilians, like all around. And I was only allowed to go to the toilet in the dark. So that meant before sunrise and after sunset. And so I experienced, but what was dominant throughout my time in captivity was being held in darkness. So even though I wasn't in a tunnel for most of the time, I was in dark rooms.
When I spoke with your wife, Aviva, she relayed a story about when you were both separated, when you were both taken into captivity. She was released after a couple of months, and you were separated. And I wonder how that felt for you, being separated from your wife while you are being held back in captivity for an, at the time, unknown period.
I was very, very relieved that Aviva was going to be released, hoping that this was actually the case. And I never knew if Aviva had made it back because I only saw her getting into the Red Cross car and taking off. So I stayed, and I stayed with a woman that we had been with for almost a month before, all through that. And this woman went through, I actually witnessed her being beaten and being literally tortured. And I saw other, acts of abuse and violence. And I think I mentioned they threatened to kill me. They pointed weapons at me. Again, just being totally disconnected from my family and knowing that they have no idea what's happening to me. They don't know if I'm alive. That was just so stressful for me to think about them. I was constantly trying to send messages to them, I would close my eyes and I would picture their face in my imagination, and I would wait till I had a clear picture, and I would tell them that I'm okay.
Now that we've entered this next phase, now that the hostages have been released, where do things go from here for you?
This horrific situation is not over. As long as there's still hostages, and there are still deceased hostages being held by Hamas terrorists in Gaza, until all of them are home, we are still in a tragic situation.
While there is still the fight to get all the remaining hostages back home, and just the overall campaign for everyone's safety, of course, there's the displacement of tens of thousands of people and the killing of tens of thousands of people in Gaza, the Palestinians. Aviva told me when I interviewed her that her heart really went out to all of the families that were broken in Gaza as well, the Palestinians. Where do you sit with all of that?
My heart goes out to any innocent human being in the world, including in Gaza, that has been harmed in any way by all of this situation. I really hope and I pray for a day when we will live in peace with all of our neighbors, and I think every innocent, decent, moral, humane person deserves that.
Do you have any message for the people of North Carolina, where you grew up?
I was amazed to be released and to come to know the enormous support of so many people all over the world. And all of you who have been active and in many ways whatever in supporting my release and the other hostages' release and being active in bringing peace. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and just hope and pray for peace for all of you, peace and security and good health for you and all people everywhere in the world.
You have worked tirelessly since your release, so thank you for all of that. And I hope that you get to connect with your friends who you have made in the most horrible way in captivity. I hope that you get to connect with them soon. And once again, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
A moment in history we wanted to give the time tonight that it deserved. And don't go anywhere. Your one last thing is right after the break. One last thing before we go. We all know the North Carolina State Fair starts this week, and it comes on a significant anniversary for the fairgrounds. Tomorrow marks 64 years since Dorton Arena first opened. It was named after Doc Dorton, who was a longtime fairgrounds manager who died in 1961. Our Tar Heel Traveler just did a whole story on the history of the arena. You can check it out on the WRAL YouTube page. On Friday, that will mark 172 years since opening day, the first opening day for the very first North Carolina State Fair. On its busiest day back then, 4,000 people showed up. Last year, the number was just short of 1 million. Thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Have a great night.